According to the American Warriors Partnership, 20 to 24 veterans took their lives by suicide every single day. What the heck?
If you don't have somebody that you can trust where you can say, hey, Mel, I'm just really, really down. That's unfortunately where the percentages come from.
What did you learn in the Navy that created the leadership style that you have today?
The people are your assets.
That's how I treated our team. Like, I'm not asking them to do something that I've never not done. I'll do cold calls every single week just to kind of be alongside you guys. What is Stairway for Heroes?
I tell people Stairway for Heroes is a nonprofit in Tampa founded by a veteran for veterans.
How do you measure the impact your organization's having on veteran mental health?
We've improved their mental health by 35%. Meeting someone new, you're the person to go to. There's a lot of people in Tampa Bay that I know. There are people that I have relationships with. Now is just finding to make the match.
What would that one word of advice be?
Reach out.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Successful DNA. I have my friend with me here, Melvin Azofeifa. Melvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Melvin's a veteran of the United States Navy. In 2011 and 2012, he planned, coordinated, and led over 150 operations in Kabul, Afghanistan, where he had zero mishaps. He worked for the U.S. Navy up until 2023 in multiple roles in finance, accounting, and training. In May of 2023, he then founded Stairways for Heroes. He leads the vision, strategies, and operations there, which is a veteran-focused nonprofit dedicated to improving mental health and social well-being through the game of golf. He's married with a wife and 3 kids, ages 23 down to 19. I can't wait to dive into this episode, man. I'm excited all day. What did I miss in that intro that you want to add?
No, I love the stat from Afghanistan. It's been a while since I heard all the movements that we did up there and the time spent in Kabul. But no, definitely Stairway for Heroes. It is a veteran founded organization where we're utilizing the game of golf to help veterans with mental health and everything else that comes from the camaraderie and the talking and sometimes just getting out of the house.
Perfect. Well, cool. Where I wanted to start, I had this question in mind, like even in my research, throughout the weekend and today, I was kind of blown away by some of the stats out there of kind of what's going on with veterans and suicide. So on October 7th, 2001, the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan launched as a part of Operation Enduring Freedom. This war lasted for the next 20 years, and in that time period, according to the American Warriors Partnership, on average, 20 to 24 veterans took their lives by suicide every single day. And since 2001, over 130,000 veterans have committed suicide. What the heck?
It's a puzzling number. It's really an uncomfortable number to talk about. Nobody likes it. And unfortunately, people have different thoughts, and different situations and different circumstances bring out these thoughts and these circumstances. And throughout my process of getting out of the military, I experienced something like it. And thankful to say that I'm on this side of the percentages. But it is a very troubling number. And if at Stairway for Heroes, if we can, narrow that by 1 a day or 2 a day or whatever the number is, a day, a month, a year, then we've done our job, because there is so much to live for. There is so much to have. There is so much for them to do, but you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know where to seek it, or if you don't want to seek it, or if you don't have somebody that you can trust where you can say, hey, Mel, I'm just really, really down. Unfortunately, that's where the percentages come from.
And in this episode, I kind of want to dive in to bring on some of that to light, but at the same time, also dive into, this podcast being on Successful DNA, kind of what's been inside of you, since the early 2000s or, early 2011, from there to the end of your career in the Navy to kind of what now in your nonprofit, and kind of what's made you successful and what you've seen in the people you've been around and all those, going on 14, 15 years now. Why do you think, like, this is not, I see it in the news sometimes, but I don't necessarily, once I see that stat, I'm like, why isn't this like more of a focused national crisis at this point?
That's a great question. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that it's not. But that doesn't sell news. That doesn't sell media. Unfortunately, that's the harsh truth. But the truth of the matter is that we have it going on. And, you know, there are a lot of great organizations around the Tampa Bay, Clearwater, St. Pete area that are here to help our veterans. If you don't know about them, if you aren't around veterans, or if you're just not networking, or if you're not around people and you're just keeping to yourself, how can you reach the info? How can you reach these programs? You know, it's very difficult. It's easy, but it's also so difficult because, as I mentioned to you before, I feel veterans go through the same thing differently and different things the same way. But I can't, at this moment in time, provide jobs for people. Mm-hmm. But what I can do, though, is connect you with someone that may, or introduce you to someone that something may come out of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the challenge. The challenge is to get the information out there and to get people away from their norm, because not everybody's norm is always a good one.
We hire, and so add me to that list. In our company, we have one of our employees, a general contractor out in Arizona, and a former veteran Marine. He hasn't really told me too much, but like it took him a long time to get to the point of where he's at. Mm-hmm. The thought I have is like, what is our government doing to help out with this crisis? You know, I'm sure they're doing some good things and some bad things, but what are some of the good things and then some of the bad things they're doing that don't make sense?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have, let's just take the VA, for example, and not to badmouth the VA because that is not what I do. That is the biggest bill that the U.S. government has. Mm-hmm. Period in the story. There's no hiding from it. So you're already investing from a government standpoint into the VA, into the doctors, into the treatments. But there are organizations that are helping the VA because even through all that funding, you run into problems, into getting things. So there are organizations that help that. But I can tell you from a mental health aspect, even me personally, it wasn't easy for me to just go see the doc. Yeah. You know what I mean? You call him the shrink and it's like a bad thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? We need to take those steps. You know, thank God that I am rooted, you know, in my faith and rooted with my family, because without that, I wouldn't be here. Mm. Golf was just an avenue. And that's why I always say we use golf as a conduit to help veterans with mental health and everything that comes along with what we miss from the military. Camaraderie is a big thing. I was part of the Chiefs Mess. I was a chief in the Navy. We're always together, right? Well, when I'm not there and I'm gone now, where is that togetherness coming from? My wife has to work. She works. My kids have to go to school, right? So if that's home, you know, where am I turning to? And unfortunately, what ends up happening is that people turn to the negative. And man, once negative starts that battlefield of the mind, it could be a cold, cold place for someone to be at. And I experienced it.
And for someone like me who just has like, you know, I'm privileged to not have to understand what, you know, has gone on overseas without what I see on the news and what some of my friends tell me that's been over there in 2001 to 2021. Like, what are some of the biggest things that happened over there that caused the darkest moments for people that you've seen?
Well, I'll tell you my own experience. You know, when I went, and most people that end up, you know, overseas, unless you're part of a unit and you have a specific mission. Myself, for example, I augmented with the Army. So services, what they do is they put these jobs or billets, as we call them in the Navy, out there that they cannot fill. So they don't have the people, they don't have the resources to fill them. So what they do is they go to the other services and they take volunteers. Well, I volunteered and said, okay, cool, I'll go. I thought I was going to do a job, an administrative guy by trade. Mm. I get to Kabul within a month and a half. Everything is restructured, and now I'm part of the movement team. So now I'm constantly outside of the wire. I'm constantly driving. Well, it becomes second nature to drive in these kind of parameters or in these type of situations. When you come back, it's not the same. You know what I mean? It's different. There's lights and there's rules here, whereas opposed over there, you don't have that. So, you know, these type of events or things that can happen while you're out. I mean, we had a blowout one time, you know, terrible place to be with a blowout tire, because that's one of the things that you want to do is keep pushing, get from A to B, no stopping in between. Well, guess what? Now we have to stop. Now we have to set up a perimeter. Now we have to keep an eye on what's going on, who's coming, why are they standing there? Why are all these people now coming to us? Let's just get this done real fast as we can. I mean, we were like a NASCAR team that day. We're not, but we were like a NASCAR team changing a tire. Those type of events, I mean, you're always up tempo. You're always on the lookout. You're always watching what is going on around you. And it carries to, for example, and most service members will tell you, I don't like having my back to a door. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, well, yeah, that's what it is. Well, I have to keep an eye out on everything that is going on.
As your back's to a door, I got your back.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I know I hear somebody coming in, but those are those things that by time I've been able to get a little bit more comfortable with it, because it's taken time to get to that comfort.
My grandpa told me a story once. So he was Korean veteran and Vietnam veteran, and he came home like after Vietnam. It was like part of the Cold War era right there, and where he lived in South Carolina, they had the practice bomb sirens or whatever. And he had just gotten home, and it was like 8 a.m. Or 9 a.m. in the morning, and they were just a practice event for a bombing, and the siren went off, and like my grandma would tell the story, like he dove in the closet and was just like freaking out at that point. So like, I mean, it's just tough to, golly, it's just so hard to fully understand like what veterans go through, because like I've said, we've been privileged to the benefits of having amazing veterans, right? Of, they're protecting those at home.
The best military. We have the best Navy. We have the best Army. We have the best Marine Corps. We have the best of everything in this country. And what we do is we sign up to serve, and you don't go into it thinking, well, I might come out a little messed up, or I may come out with, some thoughts of this or some thoughts of that. But what ends up happening is, and I explain to people, you go to boot camp, they have to break you down. They have to break you out of the person that you are, so that now you can be a part of a team, and now you can be a sailor, an airman, a Marine or a soldier. You have to do that, because it's very difficult for you to be a part of something that you have no buy-in. Yeah. So now once they've broken you down, now you're in the mix of how the military works, the salutes, the ranks, the learning things, all of that. Well, at the end, it's a week. You have a week of what they call transition. It's a week of class where you go through, and it's death by PowerPoint. Hey, this is what you need to do. And unfortunately, I won't say the most boring, but the most monotonous training that we went through was the VA brief, which is the single most important one. And when we asked the guy, I was an instructor, so I know that you can kind of make some adjustments and jokes and this and that. He's like, I'm not allowed to. I have to maintain by curriculum, step by step, and I have to cover everything as it is. It's like Charlie Brown. And it's the most important one. I hate to say it's a check in the box, but you get out of there, and some people have a really good idea of what they're going to do. Some of them have no clue. Some of them have been prepping for years. Some of them didn't. And unfortunately, like you said, the percentages are high because it happens.
Yeah. Let's back up a little bit. I want to kind of go through your story a little bit. Pre-2011, what were you doing in those days, and then kind of what inspired you to join the Navy?
Funny enough, I used to be in RV sales, and from 2002 till 2007, going into 8. And in 7, I decided to get out of the industry, go into mortgage industry. Well, everyone knows what happened in 2008 here in Florida, 7 to 8 leading into it. So I struggled, financial struggles, and trying to raise a daughter and trying to find an avenue of where to go. And it was a complete accident. Actually, I was helping someone else get into the Marine Corps, and had my little one with me, and she was kind of, a 2-year-old. You can't really hold them down for too long. We walked outside, and I started talking to a recruiter. She was dressed in white, and we just had a conversation. And I asked her the $1 million question. Hey, do you think I'm too old to join the military?
How old are you then?
I was 29 years old. Oh. She goes, how old are you? I'm like, well, I'll be 30 next month. This was March of This was in March, exactly. And my birthday's in April. And we went inside and we started talking, and she told me the benefits. And the biggest benefit they got me was medical. Mm-hmm. I had a younger, my daughter at the time was 2. I made the decision, and 8 months after the decision, my daughter ended up having 2 surgeries on her ears to put tubes in that were supposed to fall out. And on the way out, one got stuck and she had to go through it again. I don't know if I would have been able to afford that surgery for her with all the struggles that I was having. So that's what my families would push me into the military at 30 years old.
Gotcha. That's a cool story, man. Going into Afghanistan, you led over 150 convoy operations. The cool part about that, 0 mishaps. Like, what kind of mindset and strategies kind of helped you lead under such high stake situations? So it's not like we're over here in this office making deals happen. Like, it's life or death. So what kind of mindset and strategy did you have in that?
Well, for me was learning the routes. I can tell you the name of the colors of the routes. I can't remember them all right now, but over there, within a week or so of being there, I knew every route. I knew every color. I knew and we based them on colors. Route red, right? Red wasn't a color, but green, purple, brown, whatever the case may be. And what we did is you had to learn it. And the reason why I learned it is to have the comfort. Okay, something goes down and I'm on purple or whatever, green. I know where I need to go, or I know what I need to do to get to a either safe spot or to get my convoy out of the issue. When I first started it, my sergeant major and I, Force Recon Marine guy, used to do single individual movements. I was a part of advisory group, so all of our team, 52-man directorate, they were advisors to the national government. So all of our meetings occurred, if they weren't on our FOB or in our base, they occurred at their location. So we would have to go to the Afghan Army locations. So you got to go from A to B. But for me, it was just really learning the routes, knowing what it was that we needed to do. And then as you start to do 1, and then 1 turns into 2, 2 and 2 turns into 10, now you start to realize, okay, these are the briefings. This is how we need to do this. I was an E4 in the Navy at the time, 32 years old, but an E4. And, I'm having to tell colonels and below, hey, this is what we're going to do if something happens. And it meant a lot to have their trust. But they knew that they could trust me because I knew where to go, what to do.
Timeline, 2001 to 21, I'm sure there was some peaks and valleys in the war, maybe not. 2011, 2012, was that more of a peak or more of a valley? Was there still a lot going on at that point?
I was there 11 to 12. It was, to me, it was peak. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because of what was going on, the things that we were doing, the advising that we were doing, who we were dealing with. We were dealing with the sergeant major of the National Army. We were dealing with the colonel of their 1-star at that time for the Afghan national government. So we're dealing with them directly and having to deal with everything going on in the outskirts. Kabul was more of a center, for operations, and then all of your outskirt locations where all the really stuff was going on. After I left, that's when you started to see some things in Kabul. Thank God. But for example, when I heard of what happened at the back gate of the airport side, military side, I went through that gate 75 times. You know what I mean? The blowout that we had with the tire was on the back road going into the airport. What
is your opinion on the 2021 pullout?
At any point when you are leaving people behind, it's never good. You know what I mean? I think that we should have taken the narrative or the spot or the plan to not leave anybody like that. You know what I mean? So it was a very troubling time for me, especially when I heard of where it was and when I heard you know what I mean? I remember the gate like it's yesterday. It's a big metal gate going into the military side of the airport. If it's the government's decision to pull out, then okay, I get it. But you can't, you're leaving enough assets there, meaning whether it's weapons, whether it's buildings you built, whether it's vehicles that we've left, that kind of stuff. Take everything that is protective or that has information or whatever. Mm-hmm. Take all that stuff with you. I get it. But your people are your biggest asset. And when you leave them behind, that's just a huge insult to those that have served in the past, because that's one of the things that you would never do is you would never want to leave anyone behind.
And then like it's a 20-year war and a lot of things went on. What made it so hard? Because I agree with you. We have the best Army, the best Navy, the best Marine Corps, Air Force, everything in the country. Like, what made it so hard? Because, I mean, you know, some people would say we won, some people say we didn't win, whatever. Like, what made it so hard to achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve there?
You know, I would say that when you're fighting a war, right? Let's go back and look at history. Why we fought X war, World War I, we fought World War II, you know, like why? Okay, we had our reasonings. This is their beliefs, you know, and we are the bad guys over there. You know, any veteran will tell you that, you know what I mean, we're the bad guy. And they knew that country in and out, you know what I mean? You know, I'm sure you've seen the movies, you know what I mean? These guys, they knew where was the best place for them to be, best place for them to attack from, or whatever the case was. And it was just, you know, it wasn't a loss like Vietnam, unfortunately, but along the same lines, it was just, you know what I mean? When I was there, it was the coldest winter that Kabul had in years. I mean, we had 5 feet of snow that dropped. You know what I mean? We drove all these convoys with no chains on our tires. Why? Because we didn't expect it. We didn't expect the winter to be that bad. No one knew it was going to be that bad. So it's just the challenges of fighting it in their backyard. You know, that's what happens. I'm sure that there are more specific military, you know, things that people could say, but from an overview standpoint, it is difficult. It is difficult to be there. It's difficult to be in their own backyard. And we're the only ones that abide by, you know, the Geneva Conventions, and we're the only ones that abide by fighting correctly. Yeah. Whereas
protecting civilians and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I see that. I mean, you know, I don't know what's true in the news these days, but in the fighting in Gaza where they're, you know, moving prisoners in ambulances and then they're using the hospitals for, you know, their meeting places and whatnot. It's like, it's not fighting fair.
That's just natural, right? I mean, how would you want to win a conflict? Well, if you can't win that conflict the way that it's supposed to be won, you're going to find a way to win that conflict because it's in that betterment for you. But it's so hard.
Especially they have their beliefs, just like we have our beliefs.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I mean, it's when you're talking beliefs, right? I never like to get into politics. I never really like to get into a religion with anyone because there's never a winner. Right? There's never going to be a winner. And if you go into an argument or to a discussion expecting to win, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Same thing with this.
Your Navy influence and like your leadership style today and leading the team you have and like tips that you would give someone like me and the team that I lead. What did you learn in the Navy that kind of created the leadership style that you have today?
I think the biggest thing for me is the people. As I said, the people are your assets, and you're only going to go as far as what your people are going to take you. You can't do everything. I can't do everything. You know what I mean? You have to have support. You have to have people. And I realized that real quick in the Navy. You know what I mean? I was the worker bee at first and I advanced fast. But once I got to that point where I'm leading people, if I led with a strong fist, I would lose those people. And so it was a happy medium. You know what I mean? It was firm. I was firm. I was that guy, but I would tell him, hey, do, but also explain the why after the fact, not at that moment in time. But a lot of times you ask somebody to do something, they go, well, why? Well, you don't have the time to explain it at that moment in time. So I would let them know, like, hey, I am going to ask you to do things. I will never ask you to do anything that I would not do. It's easier said than done, but I would not.
We're at Jason's Deli yesterday. And I noticed you could tell the guy was a general manager of some sort, like he was the leader because he was taking orders. He was dressed nicer than the other employees. And I had gone to get my drink and I was coming back and I noticed that he was helping the bus boy clear a table, and like bus boy is on the table and this general manager was on his hands and knees, like scrubbing the floor. And I was like, how easy would it have been for him to tell the bus boy, hey, clean that up? But like, how much respect does he have just because he's willing to, like you said, do things? He'll do anything. He won't tell you to do anything that he's not willing to do. And the same thing, that's something I agree with you because that's how I treated our team. Like, I'm not asking them to do something that I've never not done or not willing to do anymore. A lot of people are afraid to make cold calls and like whatever. Like, no, I tell our sales team, like, it's more of the hardest part in business. Like, hey, I'll do cold calls every single week, just to kind of, be alongside you guys. But that's interesting.
I think, what you alluded to is I would never ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do. I advance fast. So people tell me, Melvin, you're just lucky. Well, I was at the right place at the right time. The Navy made the decisions that they made, and I benefited from being at the place that I was, but it wasn't for lack of work. Again, I would tell my guys 3 things on the ship, and I'm going to be mad if I don't remember. I would tell them to come to work to work. Some of my sailors, right, they were younger, and they would come in, and the guys would be talking to the girls, and the girls would want to talk to them. Listen, just come to work to work. Please just come to work to work. There's too much going on that we have extra for that. And I said, and then also give me 110%. Don't come in here hungover. Don't tell me you're tired. Don't tell, let's just come here to work, and let's just come in to get the mission accomplished. The third thing was being administrative in nature. We were admin. I would tell them, treat every single transaction like it's your own. If it's a basic allowance for housing transaction that you haven't submitted or that you haven't followed up on, know that that person is not going to get paid for that. So imagine if you were in their feet. And it made them kind of start to think about who they were affecting. Because administratively, we would affect people. I was that guy that nobody really not wanted to like because of the effects that I could have, on them. But you always need a cook friend. You need a logistics friend. And then you definitely need an engineer. And then you need us. So I was friendly with everybody. That's my personality. But I would tell my people like, hey, if you don't have hot water, you better know an engineer to go ask to what's going on. If not, you're going to continue to take cold showers, right? If you want a snack late night and you know that everything is closed, Cookie can get it, right? Cookie, let me get a cookie, please. You know what I mean? If they're making cookies for themselves, I would smell it and I would get one. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. But it goes back to that old omen where, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and we just help each other.
I like what you said about treating every transaction like it's your own. I said, I'm going to start including some of that. I've struggled with I was talking to one of our team members probably a week ago about possibly doing this summer event and flying team members down from, different parts of the country and hotel and, lodging and food. It obviously costs money. Right. And so the return on investment, is interesting at that fact because there's no true hey, I'm going to pay this ad. It's going to give me this sale. There's a true return on investment, but there is something to say about building a camaraderie and building a team. And so that's what came up in the conversation was hey, we do this going to cost probably 50 to $75K. And the team member was yeah, but it'd be good for the culture. It's yeah, it's easier for you to say that when it's not your money, right?
Of course,
yeah. But no, it's we treat it like it's your own company. Would you spend this money if it was your company or, but yeah, it's cool.
There are some times that, you'll make an expense and you don't get that immediate return. Sometimes it's not a tangible return, you know what I mean? But you'll see it and then you'll get it back. But yeah, I mean, in a world of P&Ls, you know what I mean? In a world of, the economy is what it is, right? You want to be mindful of everything that you do. One of the things that I love about having the ability to raise money to help veterans is I give them an opportunity to play. Well, the opportunity to play is in other organizations, mostly scrambles, because that's the best place for them to practice.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. They get a chance to practice, but I myself as the owner, as the executive director of Stairway for Heroes, I'm getting to give back into something that they believe in, which we're going to benefit by going to play. We're going to benefit by meeting people. We're going to benefit by the networking. We're going to have so much benefit, but in return, I'm giving back. So it's twofold. You know what I mean? And there's, I don't know how many times I can tell you that I've played in scrambles or my board members have played or the people that we have that are playing, that they benefit somehow. We meet somebody or we end up having one of them say, oh God, I would love to play in your clay shoot, or I would love to play in your golf tournament. It wouldn't have happened if we weren't there. So there's definite benefit to us.
I want to transition a little bit closer to then talking about, Stairway for Heroes, transition for you, civilian life. Kind of what was that like from military life to civilian life, the struggle, and Let's talk about that transition.
For me, I'm a planner, and it's a trait that is positive and is also a negative trait. And I need to have more faith in what's going on. But my transition occurred when I came here after my deployment in Africa, was right after COVID. And
we're in Africa?
Djibouti. We were in Djibouti, Africa. Yep. Camp Lemonnier. I was in charge of all the money in Africa. So I got some cool pictures with like $25 million.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? And I'm a guy that likes to have a good time. But
tell me where that's at later.
Oh yeah. We had plans on if anything happened, how to handle it, but that's confidential. But no, we in the transition, because I was a planner and because of COVID. See, a lot of people don't remember that the military, when COVID was at its peak, everybody had to get a shot. You know, you can't travel without COVID. You can't travel without your little card, right? Well, the military said the same thing. Now, of the people that were in the pipeline voluntarily saying, hey, I'll get out because I don't want to do a shot. Some of those were like, whoo, this is a like exit. This is easy exit, right? You know what I mean? I raised my hand, but you know what? It's not what I want. Easy exit. There was another percentage of people that truly did not believe in the vaccine. And that's why they were getting out. Well, my voluntary request to get out for hardship reasons, it was in the same pipeline. So my process took longer than what it should have. Well, being a planner, going to interviews, applying for jobs. Number one, going to interviews and not getting selected, hurt me. I mean, it was just like, man, what am I doing wrong? Why me? Why is it that I know that I'm about to get out of the military and I need a job? Why isn't this working for me? So then I would beat myself up. I'm sure veterans will listen to this and they'll agree with, you can apply to 25 jobs in a day. You're not going to get to 25 anything. You may not get 25 responses. You may not, you'll get the automatic, hey, we got your resume. And that challenge into applying, that challenge of getting the job, that challenge of going to the interviews, that challenge for me, I would get upset that I wasn't getting a job, and I was a full-time active duty sailor. I wouldn't have been able to take the job even if they gave it to me. Even if they came and said, hey, Melvin, we're going to pay you $200,000. You're going to sit at home, or whatever the case was. If it was my dream job, I wouldn't have been able to take it. But in my mind, I was planning to set myself up for it, and it didn't work. So it sent me down a spiral where I started to think, why do I want to be here? Why do I want to do this to my wife? Why do I want to do this to my kids? I'm not bringing anything. I'm not bringing any positivity. I was always in a bad mood. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk about the applications that I put in that day. I didn't want to reach out to anybody. Like, I wasn't utilizing the steps of what you should do, which is utilizing your network, talking to people. Hey, what do you like about this job? Hey, what do you like about your company? What don't you like about it? If you could change something, what would it be? What would you change about your position? All of these things make a huge, huge impact in the ability to get into a company. And for me, even though I took a transition class that would help me with my elevator pitch and help me with, with what I needed, help me with my resume, it didn't set me up for the rejection.
So you were able to leave because of the vaccine?
Well, no, I submitted a request. What ended up happening is, through our challenges with our family, the Navy, I applied for what the Navy calls a humanitarian assignment. The humanitarian assignment brings you back to your home of record, or where the situation is going on. With me, it was in my family in Tampa. So I was able to come to Tampa. And I never got stationed in the East Coast other than Rhode Island. Now, that was the closest that I got to Florida. I spent 9 years in San Diego, 3 years in Rhode Island. And, the challenge for me at that time was, again, it all boiled down to the same thing. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do for work? Veterans, we feel, and I didn't get out with a retirement. I had to work. So it wasn't like, I'm getting, I know X amount of dollars are coming in from, I can relax. No, it was, I don't know what's going to happen with my... There
was no pension or anything?
No.
Why not?
With the Navy, if you're not medically retired, or if you don't get to 20 years, the Navy, there has to be a special program available to apply for to receive early retirement. Some services have them in the Navy. I did not know of any. So I ended up with my disability pension, if you would. It ain't cheap today. So it's not enough. So I had to work.
So that was early 2023 you got out? Or was it late 2023?
August is my anniversary. Yep. August is my anniversary.
So at that point, you're out of the Navy. When did you start Stairway, and then kind of talk about that transition? And because there's a couple of jobs in between, maybe.
Yeah, no. There definitely was. I had in that year, as I mentioned, you know what I mean. I started to kind of get introduced to golf. I started to change the way I was working out. I started to see the benefit of kind of getting woken up, you know what I mean, that competitive edge in me again. And I'm like, hold on a second, we have something here. We have something that can assist. I was meeting people, I was networking, and I would just tell them, hey, do you golf? They're like, oh my God, yeah, we got to get out and golf sometime. We would go out, we would play, and I saw that benefit. I wanted to start it while I was still in service. That's why the company was founded in May. I got out in August. My approval came in July, and I was supposed to get out came out at the beginning of August. I was supposed to get out in 10 days. I wasn't given the opportunity to really go through the process as I needed to complete 14 and a half years of worth of appointments or medical or just service. So that was, that's kind of how that happened.
Before we get into the journey for the past year and a half at this point, what is Stairway for Heroes? I know we kind of talked about it a little bit, but what is your definition? And when you tell people this is who we are, what is that?
I tell people Stairway for Heroes is a nonprofit in Tampa founded by a veteran for veterans. And what we do is we utilize the game of golf as a conduit to help with fighting the fight against the invisible. And it's all the things that we don't see. It's your PTSD. It's your mental health. It's networking, is camaraderie. All those things are things that we don't see. We feel it when we don't have it. And what we do is we find an interested veteran. He or she then gets either new or pre-loved clubs. I've had some donations, thank God, for golf clubs that people, they're still good, that can be used. And we give them 5 lessons by a golf pro. And that's something that we're trying to grow so that we can do them all over Tampa Bay and St. Pete, Clearwater. And then we give them opportunities to play throughout the year. And those were those opportunities we were talking about earlier about them playing in scrambles. I've set up, sometimes on a Saturday, I could get, 8 to 12 tee times and find 8 to 12 interested people that may want to play. Have been a little bit at a discount. So if you know golf can be expensive. So if you can get it a little bit of a discount, that's always helpful. And then also the scrambles and other events that we can put together.
I think it's super interesting and very creative to do what you're doing. There's a lot of veteran organizations out there, but the spin of golf into it. Why golf? Where'd that come from? And what's that about?
Well, as I mentioned, I played when I sold RVs. And my buddy Donnie and I used to get out all the time, but he was the golfer. I was just getting out to get out and just to try something, just so that I wouldn't be sitting at home. And as I picked it back up, my biggest change was in the gym. That was one of the ones that I noticed at most. I had a trainer at the time. The trainer was, he could be my son. He's 23 years old. And we would play and he hits at a mile. I mean, he's a golfer. He hits at a mile and I'm like, all right, Matt, what do I have to do to try to get there? And he goes, well, Mel, you got to do more turning. We got to do this. We got to do that. We can't, look to bench 315 every time you do chest. We got to do, a little bit less. It's not all about strength now.
Some flexibility.
It's the flexibility. Yeah. And then I started to see that I was making those changes. My wife hates when I say this, but if we ever got into an argument, I would tell her, okay, honey, I'm leaving. And I would leave and I would go to the range. I would go to the range and I would hit a bucket or 2 of balls. I would come back 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour later. We're both calm. She's Cuban. I'm Costa Rican. So we're both, high energy.
Yeah.
So, my wife, Elga, will be the first to tell you that was helpful for us. And also we lived apart for 5 years. We lived together in Rhode Island for 6 months. And then I got orders to go to Africa and then COVID hit. So like, it was crazy, the things that were occurring. But as I see these things that I'm doing, as I see these changes that I'm making, and I see the people that I'm meeting, and I see the conversations that I'm having on the golf course. Hey, have you thought of this? Or, hey, have you thought of that? Or, hey, I know somebody that may be able to help you. Or, hey, I know somebody that may be able to help somebody. I saw the value in that part of relationship building. Networking became something important to me.
I had a friend of mine, his dad played on the PGA Tour, and he still does a lot of golf, obviously. And he owns an insurance company in Charleston. And he told me in college, we were talking about it. He was like, deals are made on the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
And so and I agree with that. Like, I'm a member here at Countryside, right down the street, Countryside Golf Course. And it's not even it's a neighborhood golf course, right? It's not even that. It's private, but it's like not, hoity-toity or anything. And but even there, I've made some of the most like genuine relationships of connections of people. So I agree with you there. Q3, Q4, 2023. You had just started your nonprofit. What were some of the biggest challenges at that point as you're just getting started?
Oh my goodness, the how. That was the biggest thing. I had a desire. I knew that I wanted to help people. I took, again, through networking, I met Valerie, and she pointed me to a nonprofit called Action Zone that does entrepreneurial training for veterans. Now, my background is finance. My background is I'm an accounting, finance, admin guy. I've always dealt with numbers. I've always dealt with paperwork. That stuff doesn't scare me. So I felt like, okay, well, I know what I'm going to do. I can do business. You know what I mean? But going through this course was my like get off the pot moment. Which was towards the end of the year. I took the class November to December. I was trying, just talking to people, kind of filling out the waters. And this particular course, it helped me to really hone into what was important. Who was my customer, right? I have two customers. I have my customer, the people that I'm doing the lessons with and I'm playing with, and that's a customer. And then my other customer is how to obtain the sponsorships. And it's almost like the third customer is how to kind of blend them in together. Right. And then that's another one, right? So then I started thinking, okay, now I need to make the relationship with the courses and I need to make the relationship with the pros, and I need to do it in different areas. And it's not just Land O'Lakes by my house. I mean, I'm 15 minutes from the golf course for Plantation Palms where I do it. So that helped me to really say, okay, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And after I took the class, I told my wife, all right, I'm going live with the tournament in 2 weeks. She goes, what? I would go, yeah. Going live with the tournament. But that in itself was a challenge because nobody signs up for scrambles like in the first month that you advertise it. They wait till like a month before. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I going to do? No one signed up, and that brought on different stress that at least now I can say, okay, our tournament is in May this year.
How many people showed up to the first tournament?
We had 128 golfers.
In 2 weeks, you got 128 golfers.
Well, no. This is, we started the advertising in January. The tournament was in May last year. So in 4 months of advertising and sweating and, oh my God, what am I going to do? We were able to round up 128 golfers. My wife's company is a huge, huge supporter of what we do. His son is actually in the Army right now. I could not be more thankful for the people that showed up. High school buddies. I have a picture with 30 friends of mine that I've known each on average for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And, if it wasn't for my friends, if it wasn't for those connections that I've built, I myself am a member of Center Club. So I've played Countryside a couple times, met some people there. Several of my board members have come from building relationships at Center Club. But yeah, it was not easy. It wasn't for the faint-hearted, I should say, because there was a little bit of stress involved. Yeah.
I love Countryside. I mean, it's so wide open and it's so laid back. It's a fun course. And when it comes to like a key performance indicator in your business, like how do you measure, it's tough. Like how do you measure the impact like your organization's having on veteran mental health?
That is the single most difficult item to percentage. You know what I mean? That's the single most, it is almost nearly impossible to say that I know of the positive effect it's having on people, but it's hard to say, oh, well, we've improved their mental health by 35%. that only comes from the people themselves. Yeah. Last year, I spent fundraising. You know what I mean? I didn't want anyone to come to me and say, hey, I would like to. And I say, oh, well, I can't. So this year is now I'm working on meeting more people to the effect of growing the golfers that we have so that we can create that impact so that you can show the impact. The one thing that I like about it is tangible. How many people I have on lessons, and at least you can show that. But had a meeting this morning and trying to see how I can help in other areas, right? There's people in the Tampa Bay area that do different things when it comes to mental health, different procedures. What do they do that I can help? Hey, listen, if I got to be the one that's on the soapbox and put this stuff out for you and get you support and get you help, by all means, let me go ahead and do it. Which in return, if you get someone that you're treating for, mention to them, hey, do you golf? Have you ever thought about getting into golf? Well, you know what? I got this guy's card. Might be somebody that you get into. And that's what I've been focusing, over the last couple months, is just really growing that part so that we can grow the golfers and then start to get those interviews where they'll come and say, yeah, it's helped me. Yes, I've met people. Yes, I've bettered in my mental health, but it is a difficult percentage to try to obtain.
So I think it's cool. So from what I'm gathering, the two goals are to, one, battle mental health, but then two, use the game of golf to increase a network for individuals for post-military lifestyle movement to civilian lifestyle and garnering a job or garnering relationships. Any more goals in the organization?
Well, I think you covered it. I want to be able to assist people in connecting them with others that could possibly lead to something. I never go to a networking event with a goal in mind that, I need to meet X person or Y person. I just go in with a focus on meeting someone new and seeing if there is something that I can assist them with, which then in turn turns around and says, well, yeah, I golf. Really? Okay, well, that's great. Let's get out on the golf course. And then when you get out there and you start talking, you start to see that they also have the heart and wanting to support and wanting to help veterans. So how can I help is a lot of the questions that I get. Well, if it's a tournament, is sponsorship. If it's just playing golf, it's what do you do and how could you help? Well, I own X and I do this. Okay, great. Well, if I come across a veteran that is looking for X and something that you do, you're the person to go to. You're the person that I can refer them to. And that is what I focus on, is just really creating. I know that there are friends of mine that have connected with some of the veterans that we play with that probably otherwise may not have met. And that in itself makes a big difference, because now, I moved here in 1988. I left in 2009, actually December 2008, to go to boot camp. I've been back almost 3 years. There's a lot of people in Tampa Bay that I know. There's people that I'm connected with. There are people that I have relationships with that want to help others. So now is just finding to make the match, is how can we make the match with no pressure. I don't want people to feel like, oh my God, Melvin's coming, so that means he's going to ask me for something. No, I actually want to know how I can help you, because in return, I know that I'm going to be able to help other people. Yeah.
What are some overarching goals or numbers over the next, 5 years that you've thought of?
It's been fluid. I started, last year and I had a goal in mind, and I thought, okay, well, if I can do a tournament with 60 golfers, then it'll work. And then it grew to 70, and then we were at 80, then we were at 90, then we were at 110, and then 120. And I'm like, oh my God, we're at 128 golfers just in the tournament. But I don't have a specific goal with people. I just want to be able to help as many people as possible. And that's either putting them in our golf program and having them go through the lessons and then having them come out and play with us, or provide the referrals to either mental health advocates, mental health places that are doing treatments, which I learned of one today, which is great. And I will work to get him people. And I think in time, we will see the numbers grow, and then that's going to give the golfers. And then once we get more golfers, that's going to open up to different things. Looking to possibly do it in different cities. Again, my main focus is in Tampa, but this can be done in Atlanta, in Charlotte, in your big San Diego, Virginia. You can do it and be able to help and support people, because A lot of people want to end up in the place of their last duty station. They don't want to go back home. You know what I mean? They may not have a family. They may not, want to go back to Texas or whatever the case is. They're like, or whatever other state. Don't want to badmouth Texas, right? But they may not want to go back to where they were from. They found comfort in what they have in the city that they were in. So why not have a support system? Why not have an ecosystem of people that are just willing to help each other? Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to build. It's just an ecosystem of people that want to help each other, because ultimately, somehow, some way, it's how it works out. I'm able to refer somebody and say, wait, hold on a second. You do? Okay, I know this person that may be able to help you. Hey, why don't you have this conversation? And that takes you places. But there is one. I would love to run a single or double tournament at the Valspar.
Yeah.
If I get there one day and I'm doing a tournament there, just simply because of the location or at the Vinoy, or just a really, really, really nice place that people, I will say, okay, man, we've made a long way.
That's cool. Well, before we transition to how people can help and how listeners can help out, if you could give one message to veterans out there that are struggling with purpose or connection or any issue they might have, what would that one word of advice be?
I would tell them to reach out. Reach out, whether it's reaching out to Stairway for Heroes, reaching out to me personally on social media. Reach out, and you will be surprised of the people that are willing to help. But it's just like, if you don't ask, the worst, you'll never know. But when you ask the question, the worst thing that somebody can say is no. And you have to ask. It sounds simple and it probably sounds monotonous to some of them, but you literally just reach out to someone. I have no benefit. I don't have an agreement with a recruiter. I don't have an agreement with any particular person where the foundation or the organization is getting a kickback for me helping. That's not what it's about. I am simply after connecting people in an area that I know, people that I know the area, and connecting them. What happens from there, whether you do business or whether you don't do business or whether you get a job or don't get a job, it's irrelevant to me. I know that by doing good for people, it comes back to me tenfold. And that's what I'm after. So back to what you asked, just reach out. Reach out to me. Reach out to me, whether on Stairway for Heroes, reach out to me on social media, and let's find what it is that you're seeking, what it is that you're looking for, what is going to help. And then at that point, we'll seek it, we'll get it for them. And you know what I mean? Then you move on to the next person to help and assist.
And as of today, where does the organization, where do you need help the most from any type of listener out there?
Well, the biggest thing is support, whether it's supporting our events, whether it's a sponsorship of the golf tournament, whether it's saying, hey, I may be able to come out and volunteer. Cool. I know somebody that may be interested in volunteering, or I know somebody that is interested in playing golf or in supporting the organization. Impact is made by helping veterans. Impact is made by being able to get them to the correct resources. In our direct line is by getting them out to the golf course and getting the lessons and getting the clubs. All that stuff it costs money, right? So I won't sit here and say, I need money. That's not the case. Just support in however you feel that it's the best way to support, whether it is monetarily, whether it is with your time, or whether it is to say, you know what? I know someone that can X. It starts there and then it grows from there. And, we can't ask for anything more than that.
And when's the next tournament? Or this year's tournament? Or
we have a couple events that we already have dates for. We have what is called the Helping Hands Happy Hour at Center Club on April 10th. And that is through the Philanthropy Committee, where they kind of showcase a nonprofit. So we're utilizing that as a way to get the word out more to more people. So that is an event that people can support. We also have our tournament May 16th at Plantation Palms. And through networking and through relationships, we are the beneficiary of a clay shoot that this year is going to occur October 10th with Finance Executives International. So, it gives people the opportunity. If you don't golf, cool. You might want to shoot. If you don't shoot, you golf. If you golf, you know what I mean? But then we have the event actually on the 10th. That will be helpful.
And before we close out, where can people find more information about anything going on?
Right now, through social media, we're on all channels. We're on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm an easy guy to find with my last name.
Yeah.
You'll either find me or you'll find my brother, or my wife or my sister-in-law, but mainly, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. And then of course our website, we do have a button on the website where you can, inquire. The email comes directly to me, and then I reach out to them and see how I can help them or get in the information that they need.
Cool. Well, 3 things, man. First of all, thank you for your service.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Elliott.
Your military service, and now you're, after military service of what you're doing for veterans. I know it means a lot. 2, thank you for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it. And 3, highly inspired and want to do what we can. So definitely a foursome in the golf tournament.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then $1,000 donation to wherever it needs to be.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Everything.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, dude.
Appreciate it.
That was fun.
Thanks so much.